antibiotics they use can raise blood pressure. So that's why they're concerned about that. And they generally won't do your dental work if your bottom number is above about 90. And there's a new number too that I watch with my blood pressure. That's the mean arterial pressure. So when I take my blood pressure, I have an app on the phone where I actually can put the blood pressure numbers in, and it will tell me what my mean arterial pressure is. So I'm checking the blood pressure about 2 to 4 times daily, and once in a while I'll do a 3-way. So you know what a 3-way blood pressure is? That's lying down, sitting, and then standing up.
In 42 other states said they will consent to allowing in more refugees, that according to the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 133 points, NASDAQ dropped 25, the S&P lower by 9, crude oil down 52 cents to 59.04 a barrel. This is SRN News.
Stations, channels, websites, and newspapers to choose from, sometimes it's hard to uncover the truth in today's world. So many voices clamoring for our attention. On In the Market, we bring biblical truth into the marketplace of ideas, equipping you to become a bold voice of truth in this confused and chaotic culture. Become a partial partner today. Call 877-JANET-58 or go online to In the Market with JanetMarshall.org.
There could be some brief times when we will have near zero visibility.
Coastal town of Ashkelon, about 5 miles from the Gaza border,
probably
where Islamic terrorists have been shooting rockets at Israeli towns and cities since the early
7
morning
o'clock
hours.
hour.
You gotta expect a little snow in November, but this is a little early for me.
On Monday, U.S. pharmaceutical company Merck Corporation received approval from the European Commission to market the first Ebola vaccine.
Despite the demise
That's
of its
good.
leader and the loss of its self-proclaimed caliphate, Islamic State remains a deadly threat. That was the message Thursday at a meeting of the Global Coalition to Defeat ISIS. A celebratory update from family and friends of 5-year-old Landon, who now says he's back in school, writing online,